Hello, my name is Sanaa Dennis, and today I'll be giving a brief introduction to my senior thesis topic. While starting this process of deciding my question for my senior thesis, I always knew I wanted to do a question on community. Pride and Prejudice, a book in which the main character battled with the tension between her and her community, has always been my favorite curricular text ever since we first read it in Mr. Andrews' class sophomore year. But I decided to also use the Scarlet Letter as well after remembering the class's conversations on isolation and community last year. Initially, my question was going to tackle the problem of maintaining your identity in a community that differs from your values. But Mr. Andrew helped me to realize that this question was contradicting itself, because where does a person's identity come from if not from their own community? So he helped me to reform my question. As I mentioned earlier, Pride and Prejudice had always stood out to me, mostly because of the story's romance. But when considering what my senior thesis topic would be, I was reminded of Elizabeth's constant struggle with her community's values. In this text, Elizabeth Bennet, a relatively independent woman, struggles with living in a community that values money and status. Jane Austen, the author, does a really good job of showing the benefits of straying away from one's communities at times. But during my conversation with Mr. Andrew, he proposed that I consider how someone can integrate themselves into a community with different values than them, instead of rejecting it outright. I connected with this text personally and knew that I could give a good reflection on the themes included in the book. Then I began to think back to different texts that tackled the idea of community and remembered the big theme of isolation we discussed in Mrs. Moss's American Literature class in The Scarlet Letter. In this text, Hester Prynne, a single mother and adulteress, is shunned by her community and forced to bear a scarlet letter A as a symbol of her adultery. In this book, the author, Nathaniel Hawthorne, did a good job of showing the benefits and dangers of isolation from your community. But there was still a question I was asking myself. Aren't there some communities you should stray away from? My advisor introduced me to an article, Mass and Community, which helped me answer the question I was struggling with. Dietrich von Hildebrand, a German philosopher during World War II, wrote this article to illustrate the distinction between a mass and a community. He helps to differentiate between a community you should embrace and a community you should stay away from. After solidifying the text I was going to use, I decided on my question. How do you acknowledge the tension between you and your community while still integrating yourself into the community? Instead of rejecting it outright, how do you embrace it? From this question, I was able to form my thesis. Well, it is essential for a person to be a member of their community. This is especially difficult in a community that is drastically different from oneself. The key to doing this is forming authentic relationships with others within the community. One must also be a member of a genuine community to be happy. By doing this, one can integrate themselves into their community instead of isolating themselves from their community. Thank you.